Pilipinas.
This is Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Tonight on the program, more Omicron cases detected as new COVID-19 infections rise to over 17,000 today. The Makati city government shuts down Berjaya Hotel over an alleged breach in quarantine protocols, and COMELEC trims down further the number of aspirants in the upcoming elections. 29 more Omicron variant cases are detected in the country. The health department says 19 are local infections with addresses in Metro Manila, while 10 involve returning overseas Filipinos. This comes as the daily case count rises to over 17,000. The positivity rate also jumps to a new record high of 36.9%. While active cases are now at more than 56,000. Experts remind the public to continue observing health protocols as they don't see the numbers going down anytime soon.
Dadagdagan pa yan, posibleng dumoble pa yan, abutin mga 20,000 plus. Pero ayun nga, kung susundan natin yung South Africa experience at dahil marami na tayong bakunado, may chance na pagdating ng kalagitnaan ng January, doon na natin makikita yung peak at magsisimula ng bumaba.
The health department already sees the Omicron possibly spreading in communities, driving the exponential increase in COVID cases. But can antibodies from Omicron infection really be considered a natural vaccine?
The story.
Omicron is a natural vaccine. It's now going to spread throughout our population, and it's going to find everyone who is vulnerable because of either waning immunity or unvaccinated status.
What does Octa Research Fellow and molecular biologist Father Nicanor Austriaco mean by that? He explains to CNN Philippines, based on a preprint study, unlike the other variants, an infection from Omicron could help the body create protection against COVID for the unvaccinated and against all existing variants of concern for the vaccinated.
Delta did not protect against Beta, while the Omicron variant would protect you for breakthrough infections against all of the other variants as well.
But he says this doesn't excuse anyone from protecting themselves from getting COVID or from getting vaccinated.
The danger is we do not know if you will survive Omicron. No matter what, we must be vaccinated and boosted and do all that we can to prevent being infected.
For Dr. Ronjin Solante, like Delta and other variants, a person infected by Omicron will develop natural protection, but this will not last long.
There's no such thing as a lifelong protection. Eventually, your antibody will also wane, even if you are infected.
He adds, there's no assurance if it could fight new variants in the future.
But what we know is that when you have Omicron, because of this massive infection of Omicron, will create a herd immunity among the population.
Dr. Eric Tayag, meanwhile, cautions fellow experts from making confusing statements. He says there's still a lot to learn about Omicron.
Baka ma-misinterpret na sige magpahawa-hawa na tayo para mag-end na yung pandemic. Omicron cannot be called a natural vaccine.
While most Omicron cases are mild, Tayag claims people could still be hospitalized and die.
Di ba meron tayong long-term COVID? Ba't ka magbabaka sakali na? Yes, mild ngayon, pero mamaya may long-term pa rin yun. Hanggat maaari huwag kang magpapahawa o huwag kang manghahawa.
Austriaco says a milder COVID-19 infection signals the start of the end of the pandemic. And Solante insists the way to it is still vaccinating everyone.
If everybody is vaccinated and everybody is boosted, so there will be no room for a mutation that will make it more harmful.
Caroline Bongkin, CNN Philippines.
Alert Level 3 takes effect in Laguna tomorrow because of rising COVID-19 cases. The Provincial Health Office says active cases reached 469 yesterday, up from just 22 cases last December 28. Aside from Laguna, Metro Manila, Bulacan, Cavite, and Rizal are also under Alert Level 3 until January 15. Under this alert level, the capacity of restaurants and other indoor establishments are limited. Face-to-face classes as well as contact sports are prohibited. Only those aged 18 to 65 are allowed to leave their homes. Seniors above 65 years old should be fully vaccinated to be able to go out. The Makati city government shuts down Berjaya Hotel over an alleged breach in quarantine protocols. But in a statement, the hotel management questions the closure order, saying it has no legal basis. Berjaya says the tourism department's suspension order is not yet final and that they're given 15 days to appeal the decision. It adds there is no law penalizing a hotel for not reporting a guest who skips quarantine and that due process must be observed. Meanwhile, authorities assure the public that there are enough policemen to guard and monitor compliance of quarantine hotels to health protocols. Stanley Gahete filed this report.
The Philippine National Police is ready to deploy additional personnel this week if necessary in response to President Rodrigo Duterte's order to increase police presence and visibility. This is to prevent incidents of individuals keeping mandatory isolation in quarantine hotels and facilities. In an interview, PNP Chief General Leonardo Carlos says 1,632 police officers have been deployed to different accredited quarantine facilities to make random inspection prior to President's order.
Hindi tayo magkukulang kasi this is not the peak of our fight against COVID. We still have our reserve RSSF, yung reserve standby force. So if kailangan na magbawas kami ng personnel to be in the admin work, we can do that and deploy them.
Carlos says 2 police officers are assigned to guard every 12 hours with at least 4 officers per facility. Currently, there are 408 accredited hotels and quarantine facilities in Metro Manila and selected areas in different regions. About 9,000 individuals are currently being monitored to ensure that all of them will comply to quarantine rules and health protocols.
During the admission, so meron po silang pinipilapan na admission form. Doon po nakasaad yung mga rules and regulation ng quarantine facility.
Yung monitoring po natin, meron tayong umaga, tanghali at gabi.
People also agree beefing up police presence to help contain the spread of COVID-19.
Aware po ako na may gwardya magbabantay sa kanila para hindi sila tularan ng mga nakaraan may tumakas.
While police presence is also needed in checkpoints in areas under granular lockdowns, Carlos says deploying additional cops to man quarantine facilities won't be a burden to PNP and that peace and security won't be compromised either.
Our efforts on the anti-crime, anti-drug, all others, may specific focus unit kami. So ito pong additional lang itong ating nasa quarantine hotels.
The PNP chief also suggests designating a common help desk per quarantine facility to easily monitor the move of all guests. For him, this is not just a PNP task, but a holistic approach where everyone should participate to help fight the surging COVID cases. Stanley Gahete, CNN Philippines.
Police also remind travelers going to Metro Manila and Bulacan to always bring their vaccination cards.
Kung kayo magtaka, if our police personnel will ask for your vaccine cards as a requirement upon entry sa mga LGU tulad ng Bulacan and other Metro Manila area. Alinsunod po ito sa pinapatupad na mandato sa kanilang mga lugar to limit the movement of people, especially sa LGUs placed under Alert Level 3. In behalf of our Chief PNP, humingi po kami ng pangunawa sa mga motorista kung sakali hindi kayo papasukin sa mga border checkpoint in the absence of the vaccination card. Ganun po talaga ang instruction sa mga personnel natin. This is for the good of the general public.
Security Group Commander Randolph Kabangbang says 15 personnel tested positive for the coronavirus. All are fully vaccinated and asymptomatic. Kabangbang adds the 76-year-old chief executive was not exposed to these cases. Malacanang earlier said protocols are in place to protect the president. Meanwhile, another cabinet member undergoes quarantine after exposure to someone with the coronavirus. Tourism Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat says she has received her booster shot and will work from home until she gets medical clearance on the 10th day after contact. Health Secretary Francisco Duque, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, and vaccine czar Carlito Galvez are also under quarantine after exposure to COVID-positive staff and household members. A lawmaker wants households to receive a one-time 15,000 peso cash assistance from the government if they are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Quezon City Representative Alfred Vargas filed the Ayuda sa Bakuna Act, seeking to encourage vaccination and help reach herd immunity. The proposed financial aid will come from the Social Welfare Department in addition to its other assistance programs. Vargas expects the measure to reach deliberations when sessions resume this month.
The Aklan provincial government is bringing back the swab test.
Omicron variant. Beginning Sunday, January 9th, tourists and returning locals will again need to present negative RT-PCR test results before entering the province, which has the world-famous Boracay Island. They must attach the results within 72 hours of their date of travel when filling up the online health declaration card at touristboracay.com or aklan.gov.ph. Swab tests were waived in November in a bid to boost local tourism. Coming up on Newsnight, presidential aspirants now down to 11 in the full body's latest list of 2022 hopefuls. And some survivors of Typhoon Odette still homeless and in the dark 3 weeks after its onslaught. More on recovery efforts when we return. Stay tuned.
Ringo Honasan po. Sa pagbangon ng mga Pilipino, saludo ako sa mga taong patuloy na humaharap sa hamon ng pagbabago.
Bilang isang ina, handa akong gawin ang lahat para sa kaligtasan ng aking mga anak.
Pandemya man, tuloy pa rin ang serbisyo para malinis ang kapaligiran.
Serbisyong publiko para sa kaligtasan ng lahat.
Sa panahon ng krisis, ikaw, ako, magtulungan tayo. Ringo Honasan po. Saludo ako sa Pilipino.
Coffee mix to ignite my day. Hi guys! Lagi akong focused, active, at extraordinary. Because the most important things in life deserve nothing less. MX3 Coffee Mix, my choice.
Welcome back to
tentative list of presidential candidates for the 2022 polls. From the previous 15 last month, only 11 aspirants remain in the running, including former Senator Bongbong Marcos, who faces multiple petitions against his bid. His namesake, Maria Aurora Marcos, did not make the cut, as well as 3 others deemed nuisance candidates. Other names still in the lineup are former Malacanang spokesman Ernie Abella, former Defense Secretary Norberto Gonzales, Dr. Jose Montemayor, as well as Vice President Lenny Robredo, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, Senators Ping Lacson and Manny Pacquiao, and Labor leader Yodi de Guzman. The 9 vice presidential aspirants in COMEX's tentative list remain, while the full body struck down 6 senatorial hopefuls, leaving the number of contenders for the magic 12 to 64. The full body is expected to release a final list of all 2022 candidates tomorrow. The camp of Bongbong Marcos commends the COMELEC for declaring the presidential aspirants' namesakes as nuisance candidates. Apart from Maria Aurora Marcos, the full body also struck down the candidacy of Tiburcio Marcos. Now on to other presidential aspirants. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno rolls out drive-through booster vaccination for delivery drivers in his city. Vice President Lenny Robredo says almost half of those who availed of a free COVID-19 testing service today turned out positive for the virus. More than 370 results came out positive out of the 800 samples taken from her swab cab program in Quezon City. Senator Ping Lacson this morning said he has yet to receive his COVID test results 40 hours after he underwent RT-PCR testing. Lacson has been under self-isolation since Tuesday after being exposed to his son. Labor leader Calyodi de Guzman slams President Duterte after the chief executive said he would never apologize for the deaths under his bloody drug war. Calyodi says Mr. Duterte failed to fight illegal drugs and corruption during his term. And Senator Manny Pacquiao commends the Philippine Sports Commission for mediating to solve the rift between star pole vaulter E.J. Obiena and Philippine Athletics Track and Field Association. Retired boxer says he's ready to help sort things out between the two parties, as he calls Obiena a national treasure. Some experts are warning the public about unofficial election surveys making the rounds online. They say these surveys are fake and manipulated. More from Sandy Gahete.
Longtime voter Reynard Francisco says his day is not complete without checking his social media accounts and participating in several unofficial election 2022 surveys.
I-like kung ito si kandidato mo, i-heart kung ito yung kandidato mo, ihaha kung ito yung kandidato mo. Oo, kasi fun masaya very interactive. Pero doon mo makikita parang yung hakutan ng mga supporters
Reynard admits online polls are unfair.
Pag titignan mo yung mga member, yung mga nag-react, minsan kakagawa lang ng account last month. Alam mo yun, kahit social media siya, parang pati yun, nagkakaroon ng manipulasyon ng dayaan. So, nakakapikon.
Same as what official organizations do when conducting polls, probability sampling aims to represent the majority by randomly selecting samples from the whole population. This is the meaning of statistics. However, simply liking polls online aims to merely know public pulses. That is, if all participants are real account owners. Statistician Jose Ramon Albert says unofficial and false polls online could distort facts, especially when participants are those with fake accounts. Such online surveys do not contribute to intelligent awareness of people on elections and social issues.
Kung gusto nating makuha yung medyo reliable estimate of how much is going to go for one candidate or another, no? Kailangan medyo pag-iisipan mo yung design at yung implementation ng survey. Ang problema mo sa mga internet survey, yung mga Facebook, minsan kung ano ng mga pages, is that they will be only representing the people who actually gave their votes.
Tech expert Art Samaniego says social media is transforming public discourse and could be used to influence voters' decision, especially since polls here can be manipulated.
Napakadaling bumili ng likes, napakadaling bumili ng reactions. Ang delikado kasi sa social media, pwede kang i-target o pwede i-target yung segment ng society na kung gusto kong maabot.
For 23-year-old and first-time voter Renz, unofficial polls online offers nothing but social division.
It's a very superficial way to get the opinion of people na nasa online, especially Facebook. Definitely not. Lalo ngayon na uso yung trolls online and madaming fake accounts.
Experts discourage the public to participate on false polls available online.
Kung ano yung paniniwala mo, yun lang yung makikita at maririnig mo, no? Yun yung danger doon kasi akala mo lahat ng nakikita mo sa Facebook, yun lang yun. Pero actually the world is much larger than your Facebook friends.
Stanley Gete, CNN Philippines.
Victims of Typhoon Odette are still on the long road to recovery from the massive devastation that struck them 3 weeks ago. Until now, there is still insufficient electricity supply in provinces like Bohol.
And when you don't have power, you also don't have water because the water refilling stations are not working.
In the island of Siargao in Surigao del Norte, many residents are still in evacuation centers.
The real problem now is the roofing or the shelter for the people. Most of the families who are not in the evacuation center are taking shelter in the makeshift houses that are not conducive to living.
The Office of Civil Defense says distribution of aid is ongoing while damage to agriculture and infrastructure is pegged at almost 25 billion pesos.
Itong dalawang region ang pinaka-focus natin, Caraga and Central Visayas. Papunta na yan sa drafting ng Comprehensive Rehabilitation Recovery Plan. And we hope to present to the full council of the NDRRMC the draft by February 18.
Catch the replays of the special edition of The Source, Odette Aftermath, Road to Recovery at 7:30 this evening, only here on CNN Philippines. In news overseas, 13 million people in the Chinese city of Xi'an now entering their third week of a strict lockdown to curb the country's largest COVID-19 outbreak yet. With the Winter Olympics less than a month away, keeping the coronavirus from spreading further is a top priority. But as CNN's Chrissy Lustau tells us, the harsh rules are making daily life extremely difficult for many.
我来大姨妈了，也没有卫生巾。
No eye contact from this anti-pandemic worker as a woman under lockdown pleads for a basic essential and her dignity. Through tears, she says, "My period came yesterday. I called the hotline, the police, CDC, but no one responded." CNN can't confirm the authenticity of the video. Residents in the Chinese city of Xi'an, which has seen the largest community outbreak of COVID-19 since Wuhan, say they continue to struggle to get basic supplies and food. The municipal government concedes that there are some problems and said it's working on improving the situation. Since December the 23rd, this city of 13 million has been under strict lockdown. Residents are forbidden from leaving their homes unless it's for a COVID test. There has been public shaming of people accused of breaching COVID-19 safety laws, and a man was beaten by government COVID prevention workers for breaching lockdown. The workers were later punished after this footage emerged online. In Xi'an, there are instances of people being turned away from hospital because of COVID protocols. In a disturbing video, a pregnant woman was allegedly turned away because she didn't have a valid COVID-19 test. And according to the post from a Weibo user who claims to be her niece, the woman is seen sitting outside the hospital with a pool of blood around her feet. Hours later, she was finally admitted, but ultimately suffered a miscarriage. A staff member from Xi'an Gaoxin Hospital told CNN they were investigating the incident and that the hospital had initially turned away the woman in accordance with the government's COVID-19 rules. Officials have vowed to achieve community zero COVID before lifting the lockdown. In many ways, China's zero COVID policy has been a huge success. It has curbed local outbreaks and saved lives with mass testing and tracing, snap lockdowns and travel restrictions. But in Xi'an, patience has been pushed to the limit. The Eurasia Group placed China's zero COVID policy at the top of its list of global risks for 2022, anticipating a cycle of infections, lockdowns, disruption, and discontent that would rock the global economy. The Winter Games will pose a big test to China's strategy. Experts say people in China are vulnerable because of their lack of exposure to the Omicron variant, the lower efficacy of its homegrown vaccines, and the limits of zero COVID. Even in China, will there ever be any zero COVID?
I don't think so. Actually, to live with COVID is actually the direction to go.
In Xi'an, the number of new cases is decreasing, but desperation is growing as the lockdown enters a third week. Christy Lustau, CNN, Hong Kong.
When we come back on Newsnight, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for basketball games, with the PBA suspending them indefinitely. And from the hardcore to amusement parks, we give you updates on temporary shutdowns and reopenings after the break. Players are staying off court for now with the
Basketball players are staying off court for now with the PBA postponing games indefinitely. The league says it does not want to endanger the lives of those in the community amid the rise in COVID-19 cases. All scrimmages are also suspended, even if team practices are permitted for areas under Alert Level 2. And on the tennis court, 9-time Australian Open champion Novak Djokovic may not be able to defend his title after Australia canceled his visa. The Serbian athlete, who is not vaccinated, traveled to the country after receiving a medical exemption from the competition's COVID-19 vaccination rules, a decision that provoked backlash among locals. The Australian Open is set to begin January 17th. Well, here's one for thrill seekers. If you've missed going to amusement parks, Star City is set to reopen next Friday. The Pasay City venue closed back in October 2019 following an hours-long fire that damaged attractions in the park. The amusement park will again be open from 2 to 10 p.m. every day with the so-called Star Passes available online at 400 pesos each. But while one door has opened, another is closed. The Enchanted Kingdom in Laguna is temporarily shutting down because of the COVID-19 surge, at least until January 16. Management says this is for the safety of guests and staff. Music's biggest night is postponed yet again because of the surge in COVID-19 cases. The 64th Grammy Awards was originally scheduled for January 31st in Los Angeles. No word yet on when or if the show will still take place. The 2021 Grammys were also pushed back because of COVID-19 and then held mostly outdoors and with a limited audience. Another big event also canceled, this time the film industry. The Sundance Film Festival's in-person program is no longer pushing through because of fears surrounding the Omicron variant. Organizers moved the entire event online from the initial hybrid setup of virtual and face-to-face. And that is it for tonight. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program